It's helpful to us to look over our shoulder now that we have 2,000 years of theological reflection on the Scriptures with godly commentators who have exposited the text. They have exegeted the text first, and then they have exposited the text to congregations or in their writings and commentaries, and we can look back to see exactly what the Scriptures have to say about various issues, like missions and the missionary call. But what the church of any particular era believed about that informs the beliefs of the hearers, of the congregations, of the young people in the Bible studies. And as we look at the missionary call throughout history, it's interesting to see the kinds of missionaries that went out and what they also thought about the missionary call. For instance, around the turn of the 20th century, there were many missions conferences that were challenging people to go. And there was a student movement going and challenging young people from universities to go into the world. And tens of thousands of people were surrendering to missions. And many times they would hear the challenging cry, "The world in this generation." Or they would hear the cry, "No one deserves to hear the gospel twice until everyone has heard it once." Or they would hear someone say, "In a world that is dying in darkness, I've just got one candle of light to burn, and I would rather burn it out in a land that is dying in darkness than in a land that is flooded with lights." And you would hear people challenge young people saying, unless you're very sure that God has called you to stay, and you can give some credible evidence that God has called you to stay in your homeland, your way is clear. Go to the nations. That was one era. Then there's a period of time in history when people would begin to emphasize a specific missionary call. And we ask ourselves about this, how specific that missionary call must be, and whether or not we all have the call based on the Great Commission. These kinds of questions show that it's good for us to look over our shoulder and see what the church through the centuries has felt about the missionary call, how that idea has developed, and how we can appropriate it in our own ministries today. What does our age say about the missionary call, and how is it informing our young people today?